Peace and blessings, dear family. Hope all is well. It's good to see in this time to point out something, and it's crucial that we get this message. Black unity is needed now more than ever. Now, we are one of the few groups that assimilation doesn't really work for. Assimilation is when a people who have their own culture, their own practices and traditions come to a dominant culture and lose their culture to fit in to the dominant culture. That does not really work for us. Most of the gains in this country that Black people have, and remember, statistics say that we're still between. Statistics say any gain that we really truly receive as a people comes because we have all stuck together, at least the majority of us. So there's been a lot of dissension about, George Floyd versus the attack on the Asian community. And a lot of Blacks are a little leery of the support for the Asian community. I'm going to say something that might not be popular, but that's not without reason. In this country, the group that still remains the most disrespected are Black people. We're still hunted down. We're still beaten. We're still gunned down by law enforcement more than any other group. And so I was listening to a program. I don't really listen to a lot of modern hip hop. I do sometimes when it's relevant or I just feel like knowing what's going on. But there's a brother that was talking about YG. Peace, peace, my brother, peace. There was a brother talking about YG, and YG is a blood. And YG, his music a lot of times talks about, killing other people from opposite sides. But YG said something recently of what he was going to do in certain community, and the Asian community took offense to it. Now, this is a brother that talk about killing Black people every day. None of his records were banned until they thought that one of his records were about killing Asian people, robbing Asian people. They pulled it from Apple. They pulled it from YouTube. But what I love about what the Asian community did is they still have the respect as a group that you're not going to sit up here and talk about our people robbing and killing our people. The Jewish community have that same type of respect. But we're the only group that you can still talk about killing us like it ain't nothing and it make it be a #1 track, multi-platinum. You know what I mean? On the Grammys, they might bleed out a couple things, but you could talk about smoking your brother, killing your brother, all that kind of stuff, man. And it doesn't even affect the highest seat in the White House. They're not talking about it. They could care less. So what I'm saying is Black people, until we have the unified self-respect and become sensitive. Like Hebrew, what Jada Kiss and Styles P was saying is that the Jewish community, they stack money for their own. This morning, I'm going to be talking to my homeschool kids about Black Wall Street. And the reason that I teach history so much to our youth in homeschool is because in order for them to grow up with the self-respect and dignity, you have to completely wash their brains. You wash it clean, you have to put into it the love, the sensitivity, the respect, the honor for themselves and for their people. And you have to do this day in and day out, which is not done in the public schools, which is why you can have the highest degree that Black people can have and still be a self-hating, internalized self-hating Black person with an MD, a PhD, or some type of master's degree. So until we have that sensitivity that, nah, don't even blink and talk bad about Black people at all. Now, here's the other thing. The other groups do have internal problems with each other, but they're not going to allow the fights that they have among each other to interrupt their protection of one another from other groups that may disrespect them. This is the same with certain groups in America. Now, there is the LGBTQI movement, but I want to say to Black people that no matter what other movement you're a part of, they see your Blackness first. And until you inculcate in your very being, if you're gay, straight, high income, low income, middle class, the first thing in America that they see criminal justice, your Blackness. Above all other agendas, we have got to learn to protect, respect, and collect and work collectively as a group, because to be unified in everything. Now I'm gonna close. This morning I'll be sharing with my homeschoolers not just the history of Black Wall Street, but how they accumulated political power. Some of you are not talking power enough. You will not have respect in America until you have collective unity and power. That means we make decisions for the group, for the advantage of the entire group, but we also are sensitive to how we spend our money. Some of you are talking about capitalism is the enemy and all that, but hell, we live in a capitalistic society. You can't wipe your behind with anything but toilet paper, and toilet paper costs money. You can't blow your nose at anything but tissue, and tissue costs money. You can't live in the street and rent. And in America, some of it is donated, but even the donated clothes have to be purchased first. So in America, finances and economics, unless you live in a communist country or live somewhere else where they have the equal distribution of wealth, which is not in America. Mr. Gurley and Mr. Stratford, who bought 40 acres of Black Wall Street, they had to teach culture. And the culture of Black Wall Street was even minimum wage workers were making more than the average black family in America today. They took care of one another. They spent among each other. It took a year for that money to leave the black community. That's just not spending habits. That is respect for what each other does and respect for oneself, to the point that you are not going to allow anybody in your community to spend without checking what they're doing for the black community. That's just how that went. And it's a mentality. In 1960s Harlem, if you came and you disrespected a black person, you couldn't do business in that part of town. They'd run you out. So until we once again have that collective strength, and let me say this, on the internet, there's a lot of disagreement between black men and black women, relationships. But hell, we can disagree with one another. But as a people, you better not talk about black women to us, and vice versa. The same should go along with you, sister, that you can't talk about black men. Now, we may talk with each other and disagree, but it's hands off when you talk about us as a people and you are an outside group. Until we learn that, we're going to get what we get in America. We got to be to the point that if you sneeze at the black community, we're going to take offense to it. Peace, power, and light. Thank you for listening.